CHistrue, and this is going to be an extraordinarily difficult video for me to make. Those of you who are regular subscribers to this channel know that I make videos on mathematics, I make videos on pantheism, I make videos on aliens and space, Emma Goldman. So what am I doing talking about religion? In other words, this is a channel that is about mathematics. This is a channel that is about science. This is a channel that is from the standpoint of somebody who's, I'm not afraid to say it, I'm not a Christian. I don't subscribe to the tenets of the historic Christian church. I'm not going to lie about this. I'm not going to engage in any form of deception around this matter. And so yet the question will arise, why in this particular series I'm doing on religion, and this has been an ongoing series, am I now choosing to address only Christians? And I feel that there's a powerful, as you guys would say, there's a burden on my heart, as to use terminology you would use. So I'm not going to lie or pretend, but I'm going to explain maybe some of the reasons why people like myself and others do not accept the particular gospel that you preach. And this by no means would be to say that we don't believe in the Sermon on the Mount, or that we don't believe in the moral teachings of Yeshua, but that we do not accept the particular religion or religious strictures that you teach. And maybe instead of looking at us, instead of saying that, well, we're enemies of God and all the rest of this, that you look at yourselves a little bit, as well as, looking outwards, that there are some reasons why. I do not speak for all, quote, unbelievers, because there is no such thing as an unbeliever. And for those of you who are new, you'll have to pardon me, my eyes are a bit red. I don't know if it's pollen or what it is, or something. It's a little early for pollen, but it's not my usual presentation. I try to look a bit sharper. So those of you who are new to this channel, I apologize for that. But there is no such thing as an unbeliever, because there's no such thing as a not. You don't say a not apple, or you don't say a not rock. There are many different perspectives, and I by no means claim to speak for any of them, much less all of them. But I would say that I do feel that I have noticed some things over the years as to reasons why more Americans are disaffected from, let's say, the historic Christian church, and why it is that people who are of other religions are not looking at it with spiritual jealousy to say, these guys really have the truth. In fact, strangely enough, even the particular religion that's on the news all the time, that's very, very violent at this point in time, is actually gaining more adherents for some reason. I don't understand it, okay, any more than you do. But there is something that I think that I can communicate. And this actually comes straight from, the very King James Bible that you would, and this is an old copy that I still have, that you would promote. And that is the idea of a separation from the world and a separation from the world system. That this is something that the early Christians practiced. They separated, from Judaism, obviously. That's a whole question right there. But they did seem to separate it. And then a separation from the Roman imperial system. And that's that second one that really got them into more trouble than anything. A great many of the early Christians would not become soldiers. They renounced the world. They renounced the system. And while it's true that the New Testament did not specifically preach against slavery in either probably not the Hebrew form of it, but even against maybe the Roman form of it, it's certainly the renunciation of the world in Christianity and Buddhism and in other traditions and in various secular forms also has always been an implicit rebuke of the system. That a separation from the world is also in a lot of ways a very political act. Even the hippies in the 60s understood it to be such. Yes, the hippies in the 60s. I did mention them. For all of whatever faults they may have had, they've done something that most of you have not done. And that is they implicitly at least had a critique. Not all of them renounced the system. I understand that. Now, there's a whole question there. But at the very least, the idea was there. The idea is not present among most of you that I've seen. In your own words, one is supposed to pick up your cross and die to self. Dying to self, by the way, means loving your neighbor. It means forgiving your enemy. It means, forgiving your enemy. These are very hard standards to live up to. But at the very least, the thought must be there. And at the very least, one would theoretically cease to live carnally and start to live in a mode of compassion, a mode of wisdom. And these are Buddhist terms, wisdom and compassion, but they would apply as much to Christianity as to Buddhism. And my sense is that early Christianity and early Buddhism had a lot in common. And yet, as with Buddhism, that compromised with the various cultures that it was in, as it spread from India eastward and compromised and became part of the culture, so it is with Christianity, that as it spread westward, it too became part of the Roman Empire. It too became part of societies. And in the modern day United States, Christianity has become part of its capitalist system. Even with all the good aspects of the Great Awakening, they opposed slavery and they were for temperance and they were for a lot of good reforms that needed to be done in society. And they did help with the democratization of the United States, which was very good. They, in essence, you could say, built in the character that would be necessary for people to live freely without external strictures. And yet, and that, of course, is the good side. But the other end of it is they became part of what you might call the world. That as the American industrial system became more imperial, as systems often will, as it became ever more class divided, the Christian church was then in its ever more conservative forms. In other words, the Great Awakening had a lot of liberal and progressive ideas, but towards the 1920s, and as the church became more conservative, it became more about using biblical justifications to sanction existing forms of society. Romans 13, servants obey your masters, even that one was used, servants obey your masters was used in the Old South. And so it is that you could say that Christianity in the United States is no different than the world. It's no different than the rest of society, and yet it claims that it's saved, it claims that it has this gospel to preach, but does it have a gospel to live? Is there good news here, as you would say? Again, I'm using a lot of Christian terminologies, not to deceive you or to use your own words against you. I'm trying to get you to think. It's very, very important. I'm not one of these preachers you listen to. They have all the words, they have all the knowledge. I'm a math guy. I'm a science guy. I have videos on utopia. I have videos on everything you guys probably don't agree with. There are a lot of political perspectives you may not agree with. In other words, I believe that CO2 creates global warming. I believe that life came about through an evolutionary process. I believe that there was a Big Bang. I'm not going to deceive you. However, if I'm saying something in this particular video that's true, it's true regardless of who says it. For all I know, the God that you believe in, that the Orthodox Jews believe in, that the Muslims believe in, the Abrahamic God, is using me now to speak to you, even if, you might say that I'm not the kind of person you would expect. But are you separate from the world system? Are you imbibing the same garbage, the same sports, the same pornography, the same violence on television, the same propaganda from the military-industrial complex that the non-believers are imbibing, or maybe even worse? If you want me to respect you, that you have some kind of a gospel message, then you better live right, or I'm not going to listen to you. God bless you. I love you. I hope you take these words the way they're intended.